Joining us now is Michael Welner. He's a medical doctor and founder of the Forensic Panel. Dr. Welner has been on the leading edge of solutions to end mass killing, and he joins us now. He's also developer of the Depravity Standard, and you can find out more about that at depravitystandard.org. Michael, welcome back.
Good to talk to you again, Brian. Good morning.
If there's somebody I should talk to, is somebody that does this for a living as a doctor. First off, profile this killer.
Well, it's very difficult to profile murderers just as it is rapists as a group, because what's behind murder and that choice is so varied. But when you talk about mass killers, and when you talk about there are two subtypes for your listeners. One is an ideological mass killer, and second is a community mass killer. And I'd like your listeners to distinguish that from the workplace mass killer, who has his own qualities. But the community mass killer and the ideological mass killer, the common qualities that you hear about time and again are, yes, okay, they're loners, they're socially and sexually dysfunctional. Has some reference here to some of the comments that he made about black folks and his prejudices. And of course, they're just a small minority of folks who are losers and dead enders. So how do they end up this way? And it's the final point of a long trajectory that starts with blaming everybody around them, and it really becomes part of the way they relate to others. And in so doing, they become more isolated because they come to a place where they find solace in their alienation. These are people who will gravitate to activities like being online, like gaming. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but they find it very comforting to escape into a world where it's always someone else's fault, and it reinforces their isolation. And along the way, they tap into the idea that to be masculine, to be a man, is to be destructive. And it happens at a stage where they're adolescent, where all of our young men are finding themselves, they're figuring out what they identify with. They identify with destructiveness. When we talk about cases like his, there's someone out there hearing it and saying, hey, I can relate to that. He's really something. And unfortunately, the discussion about someone like this makes him larger than life. It humanizes him. We want to know about him. Everybody wonders who he is. What was his issue? What was his beef? What made him tick? So he gets humanized in a way that other alienated people tap into. But still, it doesn't become a risk to the public until someone has failed enough times and they have enough expectations of themselves that they tap into the idea that, hey, if I do something outrageous, if I do something so over the top and destructive, I'm going to be the man, and this is especially important when it comes to ideology, and then everybody's going to talk about me, and I'm going to be relevant, and I know my life is going nowhere otherwise. In terms of the racism thing, I've interviewed white supremacist mass killers. I examined Richard Baumhammers in Pittsburgh. I examined Joseph Paul Franklin, who killed over 20 people and shot Vernon Jordan. The thing about white supremacists, mass killers, and aspiring mass killers is that they are on the periphery. They're not people who are very much involved in the movements.
And they want to get famous, right? I mean, so
they're wannabes, and they want the people in the movement to be impressed by them. So they don't care that we reject them. They're not aiming at us, the general public. They have their own constituency, which may be people on Stormfront or the other white supremacist websites, or people that they relate to in the whole online world, which is its own parallel universe that brings people together.
Dr. Welner is with us now. He focuses on these areas, these mass killers, tries to get inside their heads to stop the next one. I want you to hear his friend Justin Meek talk. He knew him growing up, lost touch, and then since this year, reinvigorated their relationship. They're just friends. Mm-hmm. Here's what he said. He said to Greta last night, cut 13.
Justin, give me the straight story. What's the real story on this kid? What's the story on Dylan?
His story. He grabbed the gun. He showed us the gun like a couple weeks ago, and he said that he took it from his parent, from his mom, and he told me his mom didn't know he had the gun.
But that it was at first his gun and his mother had taken from him.
Yeah, it was his gun, but his mom took it from Dylan.
Why would she have done that if he's, if it's his gun? Why did she take it?
Because her mom don't trust him with it.
So there's problems. He said that this guy, his friend that you just heard speak, also said then he started talking about all these racist views and how he wants to take the country back for white people, how the South Africa had it right with apartheid. And yet, do you feel as though, Doctor, it is practical if you're in the future, if you know you have an acquaintance that's this unbalanced with these type of extreme views, to tell authorities?
Well, there are two things to keep in mind. One is the reality that an individual like this is so marginal that his friends will react in such a way to say that he wants to start a civil war? Yeah, good luck. And I want to be an astronaut. People will react to someone who's so marginal in a way of just thinking that they're not really capable without necessarily putting two and two together and saying that he's capable of mobilizing to do something of such a spectacle. And it's a very important consideration of mass killers. These are people who often they fail at school, they fail at work, and they really leave the impression that they're not capable of doing much at all, but they pull it all together because they buy into the mission. It's a mission for them. And they mobilize all of their skills and all of their capabilities, and they plan meticulously something that they're not able to demonstrate otherwise. They pull all of their life resources, and it brings out, sadly, tragically, the best in them. The best in their capabilities.
Yeah. So you're saying they go under the wire. It's hard to tell. But if you're talking to a guy, and it has to be all men, and he starts going, I've had it with black people. I had this. This has got to change. I'm going to take action. I'm just going to sit here. It's your responsibility, don't you think, to tell authorities I'm a little worried about myself?
I agree with you 1,000%. And then let me take a left turn because this is important for you, especially in your position, to be aware of. I've been working on a solution for this for well over a year with Congressman Tim Murphy of Pennsylvania that specifically
I know him well.
was, and Congressman Murphy's bill was completely inspired by the idea of mental health crisis. In other words, the notion of somebody that's about to do something, but they crawl into the cracks so they cannot be discovered. And because of commitment laws, they'll walk into an emergency room, they know what to say. They say, well, I don't intend to harm anyone, so I have a gun. That doesn't make me a mass killer. What it does is it enables families to be more involved, to say, hey, doctor, you're not hearing me what I'm seeing at home. Or you're not hearing what his friend's saying. You're hearing what he wants you to hear. You need to be more concerned. So it makes it a little easier for families to be involved in conveying information, and it makes it easier for doctors that if they have suspicions, they can reach out to a family and say, hey, something's not adding up. He's in treatment with me, but I feel like something's wrong, and I'm scared for your son or your loved one. And again, because it's invariably a boy or a man, and it opens up a door in HIPAA for someone going down
Dr.
the drain.
Welner, I got to cut you off now. It sounds great, but to find out more, depravitystandard.org, and we just had Congressman Murphy on to talk about this, and we'll have you back. And thanks so much. I know you're with your son today, and you took some time for us. He is Dr. Michael Welner. Find out more on depravitystandard.org. Thanks, Doctor.
Thank you, Brian, and really happy Father's Day to you. And that's the answer for the dads out there. It's everyone's tragedy. It's every dad's nightmare, and so we try to set the right example.
Thank you. Appreciate it.